Okay, so somehow I'm going to try to talk about embodying non-duality. Keyword really being embody as opposed to just understanding or knowing about this. I got a preface, I never write a script, so probably gonna be a lot of pauses on things that are just really hard to talk about, but I'm going to try anyways. And we even talk about the word non-dual, like not two. And if there's not two, there's kind of just one. But even one doesn't really make sense because it's almost like one something else. So maybe even saying just one isn't good enough. It's like kind of nothing, but a nothing that's also kind of full. So yeah, talking about non-dual is pretty hard. You can get a bit more textbooky, say no separation and all that. Probably just walking in circles with my words right now, but just try to talk about dualistic experiences first to try to see what this isn't, to get more clear on what non-duality kind of is. That makes sense. Like the dualistic perception of the absolute and the relative. The absolute that there's no one here, there's nothing to do. You have absolute freedom to act and behave just as you want. And the relative of, oh, there are rules, there are expectations, and my actions have consequences based on these societal human made rules. And really dualistic perception would be to get caught in one or the other. For example, an obvious one would be being caught in the relative, like I gotta be nice, I gotta be kind, or something simple like I gotta follow traffic laws. And I'm just gonna insert a personal opinion, but you should definitely follow the traffic laws. Don't want anyone getting hurt. And the more absolute is, I don't have to be nice. I don't have to be a certain way. I don't have to follow the rules. And you can get attached to either one. If you get attached to a relative, you can start being inauthentic and you're just following a script of what people told you how you should be. But if you get attached to the absolute, that's just kind of the mind saying, hey, I have absolute permission to just kind of act like a jackass or however the hell I want, which also isn't really non dual. That's just kind of like the mind, or you can use the word ego or whatever. I'm just going to use the word mind. I'm trying to really avoid using common spiritual. Yeah, I'm just going to say the mind kind of co opting, saying, I can have or do whatever I want. But this is not really seeing things non dual. That's just kind of being attached to this absolute view of no one's here, nothing to do. There are no consequences because who do these consequences affect? And non dual is really seeing both the absolute and relative simultaneously, and they aren't actually opposites. There aren't even differences. You get to the point where you don't even consider absolute or relative. You just see things clearly. And it's hard to talk about how things get clear because there has to be a self or a mind that has this identity of I gotta be good. That's more of the relative, or this mind that goes, I can do whatever I want. That's also like a mind fixation. Like I can do whatever I want. Think clearly is you don't get attached to absolute freedom of doing whatever I want. There's no consequences. And there's no attachment to I gotta be a certain way. And you can see you can also embody the rules. Like I'm gonna be nice in this situation, even if it's conditioning. But it comes from a more authentic place. Whether you abide in this really hard to talk about place is like I'm gonna try to be a bit more specific by using actual examples that you can probably relate to. Granted, this is really conceptual, but like you know how this everyone feels this. You're thirsty. You gotta drink water. Like you just go and get a glass of water or something. You don't gotta think about it. It's not like, oh, I gotta get up because I'm thirsty. I'm feeling this way, so I'm gonna go get water. You don't think about it. The body just kind of moves on its own. It gets water. That you can say that's non-dual because you're not conceptualizing this. It's just plainly obvious. You're not creating this self-made identity that's like, I'm a thirsty person, so that means I gotta go drink water. You just get up, you go get a drink, you get a glass of water. Or when you gotta use the restroom, you're like, oh, I feel this sensation. That means I'm someone that needs to use the restroom. You're planning this out. How am I gonna use the restroom and all that? And you gotta use the restroom. You go use the restroom. Or if you're someone like me who wears glasses, you lose your glasses. You're not gonna go, hmm, should I go get my glasses or not? Don't think about it because sometimes I don't have my glasses on. Sometimes I do. I don't think about when I should have it on or off. It's just obvious. Like right now, I want to see, so I just put it on. But I don't think about, oh, I want to see. I just put my glasses on because it's immediate and it's obvious. And non-dual is really immediate and obvious. It doesn't have a fixation of, oh, I gotta have my glasses because that's the right thing to do. Like I need to see. It's the appropriate thing. Or more the absolute of, I don't need it because I can do whatever I want. I can just stumble around and bump into things. Really embodying this. If you really want to see it, I really don't recommend trying to embody this non-dual aspect people like to point towards to in like meditation or practice. It helps a lot to slow you down and see what's going on, but I feel like really embodying non-duality, it happens in real time when you're actually in situations where your mind is actually going to get triggered. These are the moments where you can really inspect, like, am I moving from a place that says I should or even I want? It has to come from the mind going, I should be nice, or I should be nice to this person, or I gotta act well, or even I don't have to be nice, I don't have to be kind, I don't have to follow the rules. If there's a if it comes from your head and it's like you're trying to argue for your behavior, that's you being in your head. But if it's authentic, real, immediate, then you're really embodying this place of no right or wrong, no structure, no orientation. It's just there isn't a reason for what you're doing. Just it just feels really genuine. Maybe you can look at your actual life where you've been in a situation you weren't prepared for this, but you responded and it felt kind of magical that everything just fell into place. And there wasn't a sense of you were doing anything special. It just felt natural and easy. That's really when you weren't really embodying your mind and you really come from this non-dual place where it wasn't even like a sense of a self or a subject because there's no subject, there's no object. It's like everything just moves on its own. There isn't anything apart to really act on each other. Like I'm doing this, so this happens, or I'm doing this because something affected me. It's just like there's no more timeline of this or that, and it's just this exactly as it is. And really, in everyday life, you can just start small. Really pay attention, like those small little nudges. Something as simple as, like I said earlier, like I'm thirsty and I gotta go get a drink of water. Like, what does that actually feel like? And is that actually happening all the time? And if not, what's stopping you from seeing the natural movement of everything? I don't really have a suggestion for a practice. You can definitely meditate. You can, well, any practice could help. You can inquire into this by just asking yourself, what's moving me? And not intellectually, like I'm moving because I'm thirsty, but really like seeing into your body and your senses, like how am I moving right now? When you're thirsty, your body gets up, goes to the kitchen, gets water. Really pay attention to your senses and how things move instead of like an idea. I'm thirsty, so I'm gonna get up. I'm gonna go and drink water. I'm kind of repeating myself, but I really want to emphasize the sense and the feeling of how does this natural, whatever you want to call it, just knows to get up and go get water and drink the water, like really taste the water. Like, what is that? Don't come to a conclusion of like, oh, that's me or that's the self, or it, get curious enough where you don't have to create an identity. That's when things start to get really natural. And you stop trying to come to a conclusion and you're simply paying attention. Really, really embodying non-duality. The thinking about it is you're really letting go of that structure, how things should be or how you want it to be. There isn't really a you anymore. More of a you just see things as they are clearly. So there's no more even like belief that people should follow the rules. And yet there isn't also the belief that people shouldn't follow the rules. You can see that following the rules or not following the rules aren't two different things. They're not really anything at all. They're just ideas and they're just a way we communicate. And you go beyond thinking about things and you kind of just respond naturally. It becomes really intuitive. I don't know if anything I said makes sense. It's really hard to talk about. It's really just coming back. I love the phrase going back to your senses. It really feels like you're going back to your senses because you're not thinking about how things should be, and you're just paying attention to how things actually are. And what's happening has a specific kind of feel to it, doesn't it? Like you're feeling right now. And even if you have thoughts, that's also kind of like a sense. So if thoughts are here, that's also non-dual if you don't attach to it. I mean, if you are attached, it's you can't. It's never really not non-dual. It's just when you get attached to your thoughts, it really feels like you're this separate entity from everything, making decisions. You really have to get past that to see like it's actually always like this. It's always direct. Things can't be any different than they are. I've also heard the phrase something along the lines of can feel both complete and incomplete at the same time. Heard someone describe non-duality as that. If we're naming teachers, it was definitely Adia Shanti who said that. And that's his words. So I'm not gonna really try to take someone else's words, try to expand on them, but thought I'd share that. And that really makes sense. It's like that sense of completion, but that doesn't mean you stop doing stuff. More of you've lost that sense of there's something wrong with you. And yet there's nothing, you don't feel that sense that you gotta stop making adjustments. Like if you make a mistake, you don't blame yourself. And yet there isn't that sense of I can't make adjustments to do better. But it doesn't come from that needy place of I'm trying to fix myself. More of a wholeness that there's nothing to fix. And yet there's just a sense of this conditioned habit or this sense of certain way I'm living my life right now kind of feels wrong. I don't know better words. Like doesn't feel authentic or it kind of hurts you. You make adjustments because it just, when you touch a hot stove and it burns your hand, like you're not gonna think, I'm never gonna, well, you can think, I'm never gonna touch this again, but it's kind of obvious. You're just not gonna touch it again. Kind of like that. You make obvious adjustments, and there doesn't even have to be a conclusion. It's just that's how the body moves now. It can be something as simple as maybe you used to overwork yourself because you thought you're supposed to. When you really connect to this place where there's no more right, no more wrong, and it feels a certain way, you just kind of know to stop because your body just knows. And a lot of this is physical. It's almost like there isn't really a separation from the mind and the body. I almost have to talk like they are just for this example. And we just consider them like two different things, and we always use our mind like a friend telling you how you should be or how you should feel, or even a stranger if you want to use that as an example. Like if they were just two different people, if the body was tired and it knew it was tired, it knew it needed rest, it was obvious, it could just do that. But if the mind comes in and goes, you gotta work harder, you gotta do more, that's like someone saying, I know what's best for you. But the mind can't really know what's best for the body. It can learn stuff, help the body, but it's not actually the body. The body knows when it's tired, and you can kind of use them together in junction and learn practical stuff to get better rest if the body needs rest. But the mind can never really know what the body is like experiencing. It can kind of try to interpolate, try to get a sense of, not a sense, because the mind doesn't really sense things, just thinks and perceives in a certain lens. The body is more of the sensing organ. You give the mind a reason to really work with the body. That's all. That's get closer to being non-dual. Because if you just try to separate thoughts from experience, you're creating another duality that the mind is separate from the body. So I'm contradicting myself a lot because it's hard to talk about something that doesn't have an opposite, and words are always contradicting each other. When you see that the mind and the body aren't two separate things, it's just obvious that there really is nothing that's not everything already. You can call this non-separation if you want, but I don't really like that term. A bit too, okay. I can't make someone else move their hand by thinking about it or trying to control them. It's not, non-separation makes me think of something like that. So I try to avoid the word non-separation. At this point, I'm probably just rambling. I probably didn't really get into the sense of non-duality. It's just really hard. It's something you have to know directly, and it just becomes kind of obvious. No more fighting, even when people are just being themselves. There's no more of that sense of people are supposed to be a certain way. There's no more that sense of you're supposed to be a certain way. And yet you completely accept that there's conditioning. You're a condition, other people are conditioned. There's nothing wrong with that. And you gotta just live exactly as you are. You don't have to hide from what you want or what you don't want. And you can also see into the natures of desire. You can be spiritual, unspiritual. This includes everything. mm, I don't know how to talk about it. I'm trying really hard, but I feel like I haven't done anything to get clear on this except maybe the example of being thirsty. How do you talk about something that language always talks around it? Yeah, this probably wasn't very helpful, but this is the best I can do at the moment, talking about how to embody non duality instead of conceptualizing non duality. Maybe I can just give an example on how I live, but so hard to talk about. You you don't see things as a problem. You don't see bad habits as a problem. You don't see making mistakes as a problem. Because you don't reflect on what's happening as wrong. It's just things can't be any other way. So you stop that mental narrative of how do I change? This doesn't happen anymore. You're just perfectly okay with what's happening. Even if what's happening is you want to get away from people, or you have the desire, maybe now I want to be with people. There's no contradiction. And I hear the doorbell, so I guess I'm going to end the video now. I'm rambling too much. Anyways, so maybe a little bit of this helped, and thank you for listening.